Hi students, it's Miss Ayala. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to use the problem-solving process to solve any word problem. There are 5 steps to the problem-solving process. And of course, when we start our problem-solving process, we're going to start at the green, which is study the problem. Miss Ayala is going to go through every single one, but I want to show you this is where we start first. We're going to start at the green. The green means go. Our next step will be to organize and represent. Then we're going to launch a strategy. And then when we verify the solution, you see how it's red, that's where we stop. This is where the problem ends. But you notice this purple section. What we do in the purple is we extend the problem. That's where we can create our own problem from the one we just solved. So I'll show you every single part, and then we're going to do a practice problem together. So step 1 of the problem-solving process is study the problem. This is Robbie the Rattler. Everybody say hi. He's going to be showing you how to go through every single step. And you'll notice in study the problem, he has a magnifying glass. So he's going to be diving into that problem and looking deep using that magnifying glass to get all the facts. He's going to look at it to identify the known and the unknown in the problem. He's going to write down every important part in order to solve the problem. Step 2 of the problem-solving process is organize and represent. This is where you can sketch a simple math picture or use a model. I'm really hoping students that you use the word problem structures, the strip diagrams, to represent the problem. And make sure that you label your picture, you label your word problem structure, and write the situation equation. So you notice that Robbie's holding a pencil. He's using and holding a pencil because this is where he's going to draw his word problem structure. He's going to label his diagram, so he's going to use his pencil. Step 3 is launch a strategy. So you see Robbie with his astronaut helmet on because he's ready to launch. When you are in this step, this is where you can work backwards or work a simpler problem, use guess and check, look for a pattern. So it's where you're finding the strategy that's going to help you solve your word problem. And the organize, the step before, the light blue, and launch the strategy, this dark blue, they go together. Because in this launch phase, this is where you can also write the solution equation. So remember students, the light blue and the dark blue, the O and the L, go together because when you're organizing and representing the situation in the word problem, you have to draw it and label it, and then to launch your strategy, those two go together. That's why they're blue, but different shades of blue. The 4th step in our solve model is the V for verify the solution. This is where you complete your problem and you evaluate the reasonableness of the solution. So you explain how you solve the problem using math language. Use your math vocabulary. That's why Robbie has his notebook. And you can see him saying, wow, that he was able to explain how he solved his problem. So V for verify. During your organize and your launch phase is when you are working the problem out. Here at the red, the color red for the verify, this is where you're going to give the answer and explain how you got the answer. And the 5th step, the last step in the solve model, is where you extend the problem. This is where you solve the problem. You can either solve it in a different way or you create a similar but more rigorous problem. So you would take the word problem that you just solved, use bigger numbers, or include more people in it. This is extending the problem. And it is in purple because it's an extension. It's after you solve, you can do a little bit extra. So last step in solve is extend the problem. So students, let's go back and look at why it's called the solve model. Well, we start with our S for study the problem. Then we go to the O for organize and represent. Then we launch a strategy, there's the L. We verify the solution, there's the V. And then we extend the problem if we can. So S-O-L-V-E. This is why we call our problem-solving process the solve method. Students, here is one of the work mats that you can use for your solve method. You see how we start with the green. We start with the study the problem. So there's our S, there's our O. Remember the light blue and the dark blue go together because when you organize and represent and launch the strategy, those two work together. And then here's our verify. When we verify the solution in red, that's where it tells us that we can stop. But I'm hoping a lot of my students will extend the problem and go all the way to purple. Let's practice a problem together. Okay, students, here is our problem. So we're still going to use our mind movie steps that we have learned. We're still going to read the problem twice. We're going to create the movie in our mind so we understand what's going on. And then we're going to use the solve model to represent everything that we saw in our mind movie. So read it once to yourself. Okay, now the second time that I read it, students, I want you to create the mind movie. Problem says, LJ and Jacob each have a bag of marbles. Jacob has 229 marbles. LJ has 455 marbles. How many more marbles does LJ have than Jacob? Okay, students, so step one in our solve is study the problem. So there's Robbie, the rattler, with his magnifying glass. So this is where we're going to write down what we know about the problem. So when we read it, we saw our mind movie. There's two boys. They have bags of marbles each. Let's write down the facts that we know. So we know for sure that there's two boys. We have LJ and we have Jacob. Okay, LJ has how many marbles? Excellent, 455 marbles. How many does Jacob have? Good. 229 marbles. So in the study, I'm looking at my problem. I'm able to identify the known and the unknown. Well, known are the amount of marbles LJ has and the amount that Jacob has. My unknown here is the question. When I'm having to solve the question, it's asking me how many more marbles does LJ have than Jacob. So looking at the problem, I can tell myself, okay, well, I know that this is a bigger number. So LJ does have more than Jacob. My job is to figure out how many more. So I have to think about how I'm going to organize it, and then I'm going to launch a strategy to solve it. Okay, students, so now I want to organize and represent my problem. So I'm going to use my word problem structures. Going back to the word problem, I know that I am comparing because I have two boys. They both have the same thing, but one has more than the other. So I know that this is a comparison problem. So since it's a comparison problem, I'm going to be able to use my word problem structure for compare. Now remember, when we are using our word problem structure for compare, we have two quantities. We have a larger quantity and a smaller quantity. So let's see, there's my larger quantity. I have a smaller quantity, and then I have the difference. Okay, so this is my larger quantity. This one is my smaller quantity, and here is the difference between both. Now, I know that I can label my word problem structure because I know who has the larger quantity. Who has a larger quantity? Excellent. LJ does. So I'm going to label LJ for the larger quantity because it's the bigger bar. I'm going to label Jacob as the smaller quantity because his number is smaller. Now, the difference between the two, that is my unknown. Let's plug in our numbers. We said that LJ had 455 marbles and Jacob had 229 marbles. So I have done both Step 2 and step 3, I've organized and represented it. I used my comparison word problem structure. I labeled my picture. I'm able to see what my unknown is. My unknown is the difference between the two. The how many more marbles does LJ have than Jacob? Now, during both of these steps, I want to make sure I write out my situation equation and my solution equation. The situation equation for a comparison problem is always larger minus smaller equals the difference. So I'm just going to plug in the numbers that I know, and I can use my word problem structure to help me. I know what my larger quantity is. It's 455 minus the S is the smaller quantity, which would be Jacob's number, minus 229 equals question mark, because that's my unknown. My unknown is the difference. So that's my situation equation. The solution equation is how I solve the problem. And really, there's only one way to solve a comparison problem. You have to start with the larger quantity, which is 455, subtract the smaller quantity from the larger quantity to find your answer. So this was a difference unknown problem. And remember, students, I write, you write. So everything Miss Ayala is writing, you should be writing down in your journal as well. So this is a difference unknown problem. And you'll notice that both the situation and solution equation are exactly the same in a comparison problem. So now let's solve our problem. Now, when we solve our problem, we are not going to try to subtract horizontally. No, you're going to rewrite it vertically. 455 minus 229. Now, we start in our ones place, so 5 minus 9. Can we do that? No, absolutely not. We can't take 9 from 5. So what do I have to do? That's right, we have to regroup. So I'm going to go to the tens place. 5 will become a, 4. And this 5 is now, excellent, 15. Now 15 minus 9 is 6. Excellent. Now, ones place is done. Let's move to the tens place. We have 4 minus 2. What is 4 minus 2? Excellent, 2. And again, what is 4 minus 2? Perfect, 2. So our difference between LJ's marbles, between the larger minus the smaller quantity, gave us the difference of 226 marbles. So by solving my problem, I am in the verify the solution. I was able to find my answer, and I'm thinking about my reasonableness, and yes, it is reasonable to have 226 as an answer because the largest quantity was 455. And if I took away 229 from it, my answer is 226. So in the verify problem, in this part, I can also write out in words how I solved the problem. And I would write out that I discovered LJ had the larger quantity because 455 is greater than 229. Then I had to find the difference, and in order to find the difference, I have to subtract. Because think about it, students, what's the answer to a subtraction problem called? That's right, it's called the difference. So if you are looking for the difference between two numbers, you're going to be subtracting. That's your operation. So I verified it, I wrote it down, I explained how I solved the problem using your math language. So please, students, use your math vocabulary. Use words like difference, greater than, less than, larger quantity, smaller quantity. Use your vocabulary words in the verify the solution part of your solve process. Now that I've solved and found my unknown, the difference between the larger and the smaller, I can extend my problem. So extending the problem means I can solve it a different way, but because it's a comparison problem, there's only one way to solve it. So I'm gonna instead create a similar but more rigorous problem. So I'm going to go back to the actual problem itself, and instead of 455, I'm going to make that 1,000. I'll put it down here, 1,263 marbles for LJ. And Jacob instead has 2,483 marbles. Now, I have to look at my question because here it says, how many more marbles does LJ have than Jacob? Well, I can't use that because now who has more marbles? That's right, Jacob now has the more marbles. So my question has to be rewritten to how many more marbles does Jacob have than LJ? So in rewriting and creating a more rigorous problem, I have extended it. Now I go through my steps, my solve steps all over again. My study the problem. I'm going to organize and launch my strategy. Then I'm going to verify my solution. And then I'm done because I already did the extension once. You don't have to do it more than once. So going all the way through, SOLVE. This is how you use the problem solving process. Okay, students, now let's try our solve model with a multi-step problem. So let's start with our mind movie. We're going to read it twice. First time, read on your own. The second time, I'll read it to you and we create the mind movie. So go ahead and read it on your own. Okay, the problem says, Isabella has a $20 bill. She buys 6 lipsticks for $2 each. How much money did Isabella have left? So when I was reading that problem to you, your mind movie, you should have seen this little girl. She's got a $20 bill. She goes into a makeup store and she buys how many lipsticks? Right, 6. And how much did each one of them cost? Good, $2. So she buys her lipsticks and the question asks us, how much money did Isabella have left? So if it's asking us how much did Isabella have left, well, we're going to be looking for the change. But I first have to figure out which step. Absolutely. I have to figure out how much the lipsticks cost. So this is definitely a multi-step problem. So step 1 is study the problem. We visualized it. We made the mind movie. We saw that Isabella has a $20 bill. We know that she buys 6 lipsticks that cost $2 each. We're trying to figure out the change. So we're trying to figure out how much money she has left. So let's do this multi-step using our solve model. Okay, now I'm on step 2, step 3, organize and represent and launch a strategy. So since it's a multi-step, I'm going to do the first part. I have to figure out how much the lipsticks cost. So I know she buys 6 lipsticks for $2 each. So I'm going to draw my word problem structure to figure that out. I know exactly how many groups I have because it's the number of lipsticks she bought. How many did she buy? Excellent. 6. She bought 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so there are my groups. They're the lipsticks. So I'm going to write L, L, L for lipstick. So there are my 6 lipsticks. And what number, or what should I put inside of each of those boxes? Excellent, the $2. Because each lipstick cost $2. So this problem, my unknown is the total. So the total is unknown. I know how many groups, because I had 6. I made 6 boxes. So I knew how many groups I had, and I knew the number in each group. So here, in order for me to solve it, to find the total, I have to figure out what to do with all of those 2's. So I know that I had 6 groups of $2. And groups of, we know, is multiplication. So I could easily multiply 6 times 2 to find my product. What is 6 times 2? Absolutely, it is 12. Now, I put my dollar sign because it's $12 that I'm looking for. Isabella bought $12 worth of lipsticks. So have I solved my problem? No, good. I have not solved my problem yet. My question asks, how much money did Isabella have left? So I'm not done yet. I just did step 1 of my multi-step problem. So I have to go back into my solve process and go back to my organize and represent and my launch because I have to do the second step. So let's do that. The second part of my multi-step, I know that Isabella spent $12 for the 6 lipsticks, but I'm supposed to find how much money she had left after she bought them. Well, she had a $20 bill. So I know that when you go to the store, you get change back. You start with the big number, and then you buy things, and you get a smaller number back. So that tells Miss Ayala that, okay, I'm going to be subtracting. Because when you buy or you purchase any items, you have to pay for them. So I'm going to start with the $20. I know that I have 20 to start, and the lipsticks cost $12. So I have a result unknown problem. So let's set this up. For my organize and launch step, I'm going to go ahead and create my word problem structure that shows the separate, because that's what I'm doing. I'm separating the $12 from the $20 to find how much change is left. So I know that I had a total of $20. I know that the lipsticks cost $12, and the unknown is how much change is left. So I'm going to label everything. That's my total amount of money. I'm going to create my situation equation, which of course would show the 20 minus the 12 equals question mark. Now, for this problem, the situation equation and the solution equation are going to be the same. Who can tell me why? Why are both of those the same? Absolutely, because when I'm subtracting, I have to always start with the greater number. And in order for me to find the difference between the start, the change number, to find the result unknown, the only way to do that is to start with the biggest number. So 20 minus 12 equals question mark. This is a result unknown problem, and it's a separate problem. Now let's solve. Rewriting our problem, 20 minus 12, vertically, we're able to subtract. So let's start in our ones place. What is 0 minus 2? Right, you can't do that. We're going to have to do what? Good, regroup. So we go to the tens place. 2 will turn into a 1. And this 0 is now a 10. Excellent. All right, now we can subtract our ones. What is 10 minus 2? Good, 8. And what is 1 minus 1? 0. Do I have to put it there? No, I don't. And how should I label this? It's 8 what? Good, dollars. $8. Because I was dealing with money. I had $20 and it cost $12 for all 6 lipsticks. So now have I solved the problem? Yes, I sure have, because it asked me how much money did Isabella have left. And I figured out that Isabella, after paying $12 for all her lipsticks, she had $8 left. So I'm in the verify the solution part of my solve process now. So I'm going to evaluate the reasonableness. And yes, it's reasonable because she can't have more money left over than what she started with. So it is reasonable. Now I can go ahead and go to step 5 of extending the problem. And that's where we can solve it a different way. But in here, remember, when we're dealing with any kind of subtraction problem, there's only really one way to solve it. So I can create a similar problem, and I could. Instead of Isabella buying, let's see, let me move that back up so we can see it bigger. So in extending my problem, let's say instead of Isabella starting with a $20 bill, let's say she started with a $100 bill. And instead of 6 lipsticks, let's say she bought 8 lipsticks, and they each cost $7. So how much money would she have left? So now you've seen our word problem solving process all the way from start to finish in a one-step and a multi-step. So remember, first step, study the problem. There's our S. Second, organize and represent. There's our O. Launch a strategy. There's our L. And remember, these two will go together. Then you have the verify the solution. There's our V. And remember, that's the red. So red, like a stop sign. This is where we can stop. We're done. We've solved the problem. But Miss Ayala hopes you go to purple. So you extend the problem and create a more rigorous one, or show me another way to solve it. Solve it in a different way. So there you go, guys. You have the whole complete problem solving process that you've learned. Let's see how you use it and word problems in the future. All right, have fun. Go solve some word problems.